The show, it says now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, I think we are good to go. So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go ahead and get us started.
Okay, we're going to call to order the Bryant Planning Commission meeting for Monday, January the 11th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Mr. Secretary, read the roll, please.
2021.
2021. Did I say? I'm reading the agenda. If you look at it.
Yeah, I think I messed that one up. Sorry.
Sorry to be the one to call it out.
January 11th.
Start the new year, Rick.
Okay, so we're in 2021 and we're ready. Secretary, call the roll, please.
All right. Staton.
Here.
Booton.
Here.
Benfield.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
Poe.
Here.
Burgess.
Present.
Mayfield.
Here.
All right, everyone is here.
Okay, Truett, do we have any announcements tonight?
We do not.
Okay, with no announcements, we're going to begin the meeting. You should have received also your minutes from last month's meeting and looked over them. Do we have a motion?
I move they be accepted.
Accepted on 12/14/2020, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from 12/14/2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes pass. I'm going to ask our vice chairman, our new vice chairman, Walter, to read the DRC report, please.
All right. So the DRC report is as follows. EGP applied for a sign variance by LA Designs, requesting approval for a variance that is recommended for approval by DRC staff. Abbey Road Smoke Shop at 5313 Highway 5 requested sign permit approval. That was approved by staff. Hilldale Lombard 2-lot subdivision. Hope Consulting is requesting approval of a preliminary plat and a modification from code or variance for half-street improvements. Recommended approval of a plat from staff. No recommendation on modification of code for half-street improvements. Pediatric Plus, Fox Den Farm on Highway 5, Garnett Engineering, requesting approval for modification of code for waiver on street improvements. No recommendation. Pediatrics Plus, Fox Den Farm, Highway 5, Garnett Engineering, requesting approval for 2 conditional use permits. 1 conditional use permit for animal husbandry in an RE residential zone. The second conditional permit was for child care center in the RE residential zone. That is both recommended approval. Replat of District 84 lots in Midtown subdivision by Hope Consulting, requesting approval for replat of properties in Midtown. That is recommended approval. JR's Crawfish Shack on Highway 5 requested approval for a temporary business license. That was approved by staff. Starlight Village, Phase 1 on Mount Carmel Road, requested by Hope Consulting, requesting a preliminary plat approval, recommended approval. Stony Brook, Phase 6, a final plat by Hope Consulting, requesting final plat approval, recommended approval contingent on addressing the public work comments on easement. That is the DRC report.
Okay, we'll move now to open our public hearing, and on tonight's agenda for the public hearing, we have Pediatrics Plus, Fox Den Farm, Highway 5, Garnett Engineering requesting approval for 2 conditional use permits. First, conditional use permit for animal husbandry in the RE residential zone. And 2, conditional use permit for childcare center in RE residential zone. Trent, do you want to tell us a little bit about this information you have? And you should have received an email today with some information on this as well.
Yeah, so I think to give a broad overview before we add the applicant on here, I also want to state if anybody is here for the obviously this is the public hearing part of it. In a few minutes, we'll have you add on to have a public comment if you're here for that. If you are here for that, when we get to that point, please either send us a message or raise your hand so that we can know that you would like to make a public comment at that time. But this is there are 2 conditional use permits, and this is mostly because all of this is still being done inside of a residential zone. So with being inside that residential zone and keeping the residential zone, they have to come through for both of these conditional use permits, those being the ability to have animals, animal husbandry on site, and the facilitation of the child care. And if Colton, if you can bring up probably first GIS to show everybody approximately where this is at, and then maybe the site plan. So this is along Highway 5. Yeah, near Woody Drive. So it is the back portion of this lot. So where he's showing you right now is approximately where it's at. And then if you pull up the site plan, I think you can get a good idea of where they're trying to go on site. Yeah, so you see there the actual layout of where it will be going. And this is just that rear piece of property here. This does not include the first 300 feet of property that goes along, that is zoned commercial. So this is behind that 300 feet of property right there. So they have met the requirements to hold the conditional use permit hearing. And we, the planning department, have not heard any public comment on this permit, or for either of the 2 permits that are before you tonight on this project. And I believe that's all that I have, unless there's any questions for me.
And I think what we heard in DRC was a description of the enterprise that they want to run here. So
Yes.
I think that would be the permission to reiterate that.
Okay, yeah, I'll give a broad explanation, and then once we add their engineer and them on, they can fill in any gaps that I don't. But basically, this is a place where they want to take sort of like autistic children and help them develop further by having this farm-like atmosphere, and then the farmhouse is a place where they can also go to and sort of have certain things that I'm sure the applicant will better explain than I. But ultimately, it's there to help them, better develop. So I think with that, if everybody's okay with it, I'm going to add Vernon Williams, who's their engineer.
Just a minute. What did he decide about the road?
So the road comes, I think there's an item for that specifically in new business on the road itself.
The suggestion was to change where it is and move it on the property line on the west side, correct?
Correct. So yeah, what ultimately they've done, and you can see it in this site plan here, is they've allotted for the road to be put on the property line, on each property line. There's 2 roads. There's one heading north and south and one heading east and west. And so they've allotted for those roads to be put on the property line, and then doing half of the right away on that property line. So, and what they're asking for in new business is the ability to not do the improvement itself, but just dedicate the right away.
Is this going to be a city street?
Yes, that will eventually be a city street.
Because of the master street plan?
Yes, it is.
Could we see the master street plan? Colton, can you pull that up?
Yes, give me just 1 second.
Because I know that was big discussion at DRC was the west side and the south side putting a road both those areas or giving us the right of way or whatever the terminology is.
Yeah, in DRC, I think, just about discussed every angle on this. And you can see even in the site plan that they've submitted, they put the proposed improvements to Woody Drive that were done from the facility across the street that was looking to go in case those happened. Would it be a more ideal situation to line the road up with where Woody Drive might end up to make a proper intersection there, or to leave the road where it was at? So, I mean, we had a pretty extensive conversation about the situation, where to put this road. Are you able to pull that up, Colton?
Yes. Let's see. Oh, wrong one. So this is the actual master street plan showing where the road would go. And then let me get it on the GIS map for you as well.
So you can see even on that plan that there's a north-south collector, and then there's an east-west as well. And so basically the corner of that intersection there is close to the corner of their property. I think you'll see when he gets it pulled up on the GIS that it is a little off of those property lines, but it's not far from those property lines either.
So that would be adjusted, true. Should we decide this, right? I mean, it would hug more along the property line.
Right, which the big thing about the street plan is like A to B, so it's going from one place to the other. But not to delve off too far into the street discussion too much, but it is a separate item on the agenda. And I think right now, not that it's not important to the overall scheme of the plan and the conditions that they're doing. I think it's part of that, but are there any questions specifically about the conditional use?
And the number of animals, what was that, Truett? Or the kind, I think it was 2 cows, a few chickens. I mean, it's not like a whole lot, correct?
Yeah, I think I'd like them to answer that question. So I think with that, I'll put Vernon on here. Let me see if I can promote him. I think this is him on the phone too. Oh, and Mr. Tapp, we'll get him on there. Vernon, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is Mr. Tapp on yet?
Yeah, Vernon, I'm here as well. So
Okay.
I can talk on the animals real quick. Thank you guys for having us. What we boiled down to is 1 dog, 3 goats, 12 chickens, 2 to 3 cows, probably 2 based on the land size. And one of the cows would probably be a miniature cow, and 8 ducks. So that is a preliminary on what we're thinking. We're not thinking that we'd have a herd of cattle or 20 horses or 10 cows. Basically, we want smaller farm animals, but that's what we've come to so far as the animals is just a few chickens, 12 chickens, a dog, 1 or 2, 3 goats, 2 cows, and 8 to 12 ducks. I think that's plenty for our farmhand to handle every day. I don't know if y'all have ever been in the farming business, but it's very tiresome. So that's plenty of animals for the kids.
David, have you heard any comment from neighbors? Like I noticed there's a house, a swimming pool to the east, or any other neighbors had concerns about the animals or anything?
I've not heard anybody directly call myself. I don't know if Vernon has or the city has. One thing that we do love about this property that y'all can tell from this map is it's very secluded. So not only do we have the 300 feet of commercial property, but we also have a really large amount of trees all around this property. And so we're going to keep as many trees possible for barriers from our neighbors that's right there in the middle of us, especially the back side of us. That's kind of I don't know if that's a container yard. I'm not really for sure what that is. But we're going to try and keep as many trees as possible to keep, the noise down. But we haven't heard anything from the neighbors if they have any problems with it. In fact, the one neighbor right there in the middle, they've got a big barn. I'd love to be able to just lease that barn from them and say, hey, let's partner on this barn so I don't have to build one to house my animals.
Do you have a rooster?
I don't
Sorry.
know. On
They're
the
loud.
Vein, on the wind vane, we will have a rooster. So hopefully just the wind vane will be enough rooster that we need for that.
Okay, good.
I preferably would not like a rooster. I had a rooster when I was younger at my farm and I did not like it.
We have a comment.
It looks like the neighbor's negotiating. He wants to lease you a chicken coop instead of the barn.
Okay. Well, as long as it can hold 12 chickens, that's fine with me.
Okay. Well,
and one thing about these chickens and stuff like that, and again, True, you did a great job. And I don't know, this is a good time to talk about our project. True, you did a good job on explaining what we're trying to do here. And I just want to reiterate what the DRC and what's on the meeting minutes here is a conditional use for a child care center. What this child care center really is a place for therapy, like Truett said. So we'll be doing occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, ABA therapy for kids with autism. And one thing about these animals, if you've ever been around with a child with autism, is animals are very calming to them. And another big thing about this farm is I grew up on a farm, and there's a lot of things you can do with farms to be successful. So one thing that we want these kids to do is to go out and pick eggs from the chicken coop and be able to sell it to neighbors or friends and feel like that they're being successful in the society, or have a garden. That's one thing that we're going to put on this property if we get this passed, is we'll have a garden. They'll plant strawberries, different things like that. They'll raise it. And then hopefully we can sell some jam for $1 or $2, whatever it may be. Something where the kids feel like they're active, productive, and they can see a start to finish product and be able to sell it and feel like they're, part of society. And so that is one thing that we're very excited about with having a farm that you just can't do in the city. I know this is city limits, but it's tough to do this at a strip mall. So that's why we're trying this new approach. Bryant is our first location that we're trying this. If y'all aren't familiar with Pediatrics Plus, we've got several sites across Arkansas, and this farm is our first time to try something like this. So we've looked all over Cabot, Searcy, Conway, different places, and this is where we've landed to try to start this new model for Pediatrics Plus, and we think it's going to be very successful with Bryant's help as well.
David, I wanted to ask you, the neighbor is asking about fencing, what your plans are and how you contain the animals, things like that.
Yeah. So luckily, again, I grew up on a farm. My brother-in-law works for us full time. He grew up on a farm. So we would definitely have fencing around, preferably barbed wire. We wouldn't have not the electrical, but we'd have the amount of fencing, preferably barbed wire to contain the animals. The smaller animals like the goats, we keep them more close to the barn area and have more like stable top area for that. But the cows, we'd have, you have to have so much acreage per cow. That's why we're thinking it's probably only be 1, maybe 2 cows that we have, just because of the land. The land we are purchasing or trying to purchase is around 13 acres. It doesn't look that big when you look at this site plan, but when you go out there and actually walk it, it's a lot of land. 13 acres right there in the heart of Bryan is pretty fascinating, I think.
And I have a question about the child care. It's a daycare only, correct? Not an overnight?
Yes, it's not a daycare. I want to make sure that everybody is aware. It's not a daycare. It's not where parents come and drop their kids off for daycare services. It's for therapy services. So the hours would be during the daytime. There would be no night time for the kids to be there. So they would be dropped off. Say a child would be dropped off. A therapist would be with that child during the day, and then the parent would come and pick them back up and leave. But they would not be overnight services that we would offer here at this place.
Okay. Any commissioners have any other questions?
What's the current status of chickens in the code? There's already an allowance for chickens, for example, in the code. Am I correct? And what is it?
Yeah, Colton, I think you're familiar with the chicken code. You want to chime in here?
Yeah, so I don't really think the Bryant has any kind of specific ordinance there on chickens in the city limits. I know I looked into it because I actually got 6 chickens last spring when I was living down here in the heart of Bryant. But yeah, we couldn't find anything on specifics of number of chickens or anything like that. I know we just got all hens. We didn't want any roosters, just to make sure we kept neighbors happy and everything. We didn't want to interfere with them. So.
Okay, so it's not excluded in the code anywhere. Okay, so this really isn't that big a stretch for chickens, for example.
Right now,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. That's my only question at the moment.
Okay. Do we want to bring in any public comment? Do we have any public that want to comment on this that hasn't already or
Yeah, so I see a few people in that are a part of the meeting. If anybody would like to make a public comment at this time, either in for or against any input at all, if you would please either send us a message in the chat stating so, or raise your hand so that we can add you into the meeting. Okay, well, Chairman, I'm not getting any interaction on my end that anybody wants to make a public comment.
Okay, and Jared Beavers made a comment earlier about the fence, and he says he has no major concerns. Was just asking about fencing. Okay, it's my understanding we can just do one vote if it's agreeable. Just or would you prefer us, Truett, to do separate votes on this?
Whatever y'all want to do, you can do separate or you can do together.
I think probably best to do separate.
Okay.
So let's, since we don't have any more public comments, commissioners have any other questions or concerns? Okay, we will do a vote, and the first vote will be number 1, conditional use permit for animal husbandry in an RE zone. A yes vote would be permitting that. And roll call.
All right. Irwin,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Mayfield, or Johnson.
Yes. Okay, it passes the conditional use permit for animal husbandry. We'll move on, and we will now take a vote on the conditional use permit for child care center in an RE residential zone. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay. Both measures pass on Pediatrics Plus, and I'll move that we go ahead and close the public hearing now. And,
Second.
all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. We will move on to new business. And first item is Pediatrics Plus, Fox Den Farm, Highway 5, Garnett Engineering requesting approval for modification of code for waiver on street improvements. Truett, would you give us a little more detail on that?
Yeah, sure thing. So we kind of got into this a little bit earlier. As you can see, there are the roads. Or actually, can we pull up that GIS again, Colton? There are roads that go across the development. The request here is, instead of building the roads, is to accept the right of way that is being proposed on the outside border of the property, to not cut the property in half. So you can see where the road is supposed to be. And once again, I just point out, as I tried to do whenever we talk about the transportation plan, is the main thing here is getting the traffic from A to B. So obviously with the plan, you got to put the line on paper somewhere, but that does not necessarily have to be where the road ends up. It does not have to be that exact. So mostly it's just have the roadway going from at one point across the property to another. But yes, the proposal is for just the right of way and not doing the half street improvements, and doing for the right of way, doing it against the property line there.
On both the west and the south, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So this is in lieu of improvements. The city receives the right of way.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any immediate plans for this road, or is this just a proposed road someday in the future?
It's a proposed road on the transportation plan. It is not one that the city has a number of road projects we're working through right now.
Okay.
So the entrance will still be the same as it showed on the original plan.
Yes, it'd be very close to that. So it would go down that property line that line's really close to. So yeah, it would go to that property line right there.
But see, it doesn't show that right now.
Right, it shows it further to the west, to the left.
Correct.
So yeah, it would modify that. Some, depending on what happens on the first 300 feet. That was one of the tricky parts with this conversation, is they're not doing anything to the first 300 feet there. So the dedication of right of way is only upon the property that they're developing. So if you notice, there's that line there. Colton, can you point to where that stops? Yeah, right there. So they're only doing that into the property line.
But Truett, this Lance, the reason that line diagonaled over towards that other property was we used to have a segment of the master street plan that went through that vacant land, and we removed that a couple of years ago, correct?
Yeah, so there was an additional leg to this road that went west. Is that what you're talking? Or no, north.
Yeah.
Yes.
By that
Sorry.
church.
We removed that, and at that time probably should have straightened that out. I mean, there's no reason for it to connect right there, other than the fact we were connecting to that other proposed segment, correct?
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement.
So Colton, can you show me where that new road will be that they're proposing?
It's on their site plan.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
So
not seeing the site plan. I'm seeing what he's got on the screen.
It was up.
Yeah, so on the site plan here, that would follow basically the edges of the property here, east and west, and then straight north here. And that road, once fully built out, would follow that property line straight north till it intersects there at Highway 5. So instead of going further to the west, it would just fall down and then come straight over.
Thank you.
Any other questions by commissioners, comments? Okay, well, let's take a roll call vote then on whether or not to grant the waiver.
All right. Irwin,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay. The Pediatrics Plus modification from code for waiver on street improvements has passed. We'll move on to the next item, which is the Hilldale Lombard 2-lot subdivision. Hope Consulting is requesting approval for preliminary plat and modification from code for half-street improvements. And do we want to bring Jonathan in? Is he available?
Yes, he is. And as I'm bringing him in, I'll give sort of an overview of this. Let me go ahead and start that. So this is, there's the plat. So this is a piece of property we've actually has been before y'all before, doing a development here. And so what they're asking for, ability to do this subdivision, split it into these 2 lots, to build homes on, which Jonathan, Mr. Hope can confirm. And they are dedicating the proper amount of right-of-way for both roads. That's Lombard and Hilltop, but asking a waiver on all the improvements to all the half-street improvements.
Not only on Lombard, but also on
Hilltop.
Hilltop.
Correct. So there's the piece of property to give everybody some context.
Do I recall correctly, we have had a lot of discussion about developments north of this location on Lombard?
There is some active developments going on north of Lombard, as well as some more that I think are proposed.
Okay.
I know for sure there's I think it's Roman Heights is I think its name. Yeah, right there. That one's going on, and they're finishing up at Dawson's Point.
Do we have Jonathan on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, Truett did great. Kind of gave a quick overview. There's really not a lot more to it. This did come to you guys previously, I think, in a rezone trying to get to R1S a few months ago, and a development was proposed here. Now they are trying to split off 3 acres, sell to a friend. Somebody else is buying it, so 2 new parties involved, and that north track just trying to cut out 1 more piece. So the total here would just be two homes. So the existing home on the south side is going to stay. The people buying it are going to live in it, and then they are going to cut out 3 acres on the north end of the property and sell that to a friend of theirs if this all works out. We are dedicating, you see that dashed right-of-way line there, we're going to dedicate that area on both Lombard and on Hilltop. We've got the correct right-of-way shown there per the walk, bike, drive plan. And really that's about it, I think, unless you guys have any questions.
Jonathan, do you have any new numbers about the traffic load on Lombard and that intersection? Just to give us a general idea how heavily that's being used.
Right. Yeah, I could get those to you, but no, sir. I don't have any of those right offhand. I don't know those numbers.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect you would. I was just hopeful.
Sure, sure.
Truett, you and I talked a little bit about these roads. Can you tell everybody again what type of road these are? Is the classification on Hilltop and Lombard as far as collector or what type of road they are?
Yeah, I think Colton's pulling this up here for us as well. So it's Lombard is a collector. So that requires a 60-foot right of way, I believe. And then Hilltop is a minor arterial. So that's what the orange is the collector, that pinkish purple is the arterial. And so, in most of those cases, for anyone not familiar, the collectors, your local streets feed into your collectors, and then your collectors feed into your arterials that ultimately move the most amount of traffic. So that's why you have such the increase in right of way and road design there. Your minor arterials are designed to move a lot of traffic. And then, the collectors are just a step down from that. Does that answer your questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, yes. And I just wanted to clarify. So half-street improvements are required on both these streets, typically. That's without a waiver. Is that correct? And sidewalks?
Yes. And so that's the reasoning for the, yes, that's why they're before you tonight asking for the waiver from there, because there's a requirement for both of these.
And, if we were bringing a development to you, most certainly we wouldn't be asking for this, but just two individuals, it's kind of hard to ask them to do, major infrastructure improvements on this stretch, being it's just going to be two single-family homes.
I'll pipe in here and say, yeah, that is unfortunate that it's just two property owners. However, it doesn't alleviate the need. I believe personally, these are two major roads. I've driven out there. I think this intersection is inadequate in its current condition for the amount of new building that's happening in this area. So that would be my major concern, is that if we don't make these improvements now, that it will continue to develop and there'll be no appropriate infrastructure in this area to support the new homes coming to the area.
Well, I would say I totally understand but if you say no, I mean, the infrastructure won't be built. These people they just won't sell that tract. There's just no way financially for them to, there's no way to recoup their money, I guess, if they decided to, do the infrastructure for a 90-foot half-street improvements for a 94-foot arterial street, and then half-street improvements for a collector, and spend, $80,000-$90,000 on road work that, they're going to get a split off 3-acre tract, they might sell for $60,000 or $50,000 or something like that. You know what I mean? If you guys aren't interested, I understand, but the road work won't happen if the split's not. I mean, if you guys don't want to do this, which I understand, it's two single family homes and, a substantial amount of road improvements.
Did that subdivision up north, up north of that, did it pay for the half street improvements when it went in?
Yes. So Roman Heights, yeah, that was one of our projects too. They will be doing the half street improvements out in front of their project. So that's a significant stretch there as well. So that also has the trail on their side, and the developers building the trail too. Which I've come to you guys previously on, these splits like this and asked for this. And, it's just quite the burden to put that on a residential homeowner to do those types of improvements.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jonathan, but, not to be too bad, but there's more than one use for this land. There's more than one buyer for this land. And it'd be unfortunate if it didn't work out for these two property owners, but the city does need infrastructure improvements. That's why we have the code and the things enforced to help develop the city as community grows.
Basically, this is the same thing we had on Woodland Road on that development at the very end.
There were more houses on that though.
Correct.
Right.
But
I agree with you.
But I agree. I mean, it's a similar situation, you know, where, you know, if you guys decline this request, the road won't get built. It will be a similar situation. And I think the previous request was a R1S, can correct me if I'm wrong, which was the smaller lots, which based on the width of this east-west, you know, I think the R1S, you were able to make that work financially, barely. It was very borderline. I looked at it previously, but you know, the city council or the planning commission turned down that zoning already. So I don't see a development per se being able to work on this piece of property, specifically in a R2. So it'd be really hard to make that work in a R2.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that history.
Can you pull the proposed plat back up, Colton?
Jonathan, is there a driveway location for the other, the section that they're shaving off, the smaller lot?
I don't have one shown there, but it would hit Lombard somewhere right there within that stretch of a few hundred feet.
It'd just be like a standard driveway, or would it be any?
Right. That's right.
No improvement or anything?
Some cost estimates here so that I had done previously. The collector, for example, on a half street improvement per linear foot, I think I've got it 190 a foot.
Well, Truett, it's Lance again. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm unmuted. I mean, we've, you know, for purposes of family taking on, we have a lot of tracts in Bryant that are 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres. There's a lot of family, including myself, that we've allowed lot splits for as many years as I've been on here, 15, to allow one time, you know, without imposing all the subdivision regs. In the old days, until about a year ago, we never actually required a plat for that. It was typically meets and bounds. And I think, wasn't it about a year ago, we started requiring the subdivision platting of these lot splits?
I believe you're right, Lance, yes.
And I mean, there becomes a straw that breaks the camel's back. I mean, is it one lots or two lots, or, you know, I mean, I get we need the infrastructure, but there's houses on the other side of the road that are nice, large houses that they're not going to be broken up for developments for years. I mean, tens of years.
Any other comments by commissioners or questions?
But what they are giving us the right of way for a collector and a minor arteriogram as well, right?
Yes, that's correct.
On their side.
Yes, so they're giving the proper amount of right of way.
How many feet? How many feet is that?
So on Lombard, that's a 60-foot right of way. So they're giving their half of that, which is 30, and then on Hilltop, That's a 94-foot right of way. So they're giving half of that, which is
45.
Yeah, and then a little bit, I think, but right in there.
Yeah, 45, but there's already a 50, so they're giving an additional 20, correct?
That is correct. So there is already an existing right of way there. Yeah, it's an additional.
But I think it's this same issue. Didn't we do Miss Farr on Johnswood and the 2-lot subdivision a few months ago, Truett?
Yeah, there was Miss Farr on Johnswood. I can't remember with her if she had. I think she just had an easement that was coming up to Johnswood.
We took a right away though, if you recall.
Yeah.
It was a 2-lot subdivision to build a house for her son, and we took right of way, but we waived the street improvements. There was on Leslie we did about a year ago. It was a 5-acre tract that we waived half street improvements. I mean, we've been in a habit of doing it on one split, but anyway.
Were any of those examples at the intersection of 2 significant roads like this?
No, but Miss Farr's was a significant pathway through from Andrews Woods over to Johnswood.
Yeah. Is there any way we can at least get the intersection in better shape if we don't have half street improvements for Lombard? Is there anything we can do to improve that intersection, make it more serviceable for the community?
I would say, go ahead.
I think the mayor's listened to us.
Go ahead, Jonathan. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, again, I totally understand. I don't think there would be any sort of ability for these specific clients to, put up financial. I just don't see there's any way for them to do road improvements for this type of request for a split. But from our end.
Yes, my question is, we've already had this piece of property come before with a lot of houses and had quite a few people that was not for that amount of density. And with having 2 lots, traffic and these 2 lots here would not be as major as someone coming in and putting a subdivision in there, I guess, it'd be my concern. I mean, I understand where Walter's coming from about the traffic situation. That's totally correct. Totally agree with that part. But people are buying large tracts of land where they can, and not a clear-cut situation answer on these.
Yeah, there's not a win-win here. That's for sure. So,
hey, Truett, did Gary Kennedy, was that a 2-lot where we waived those on Spring Hill?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
It was either. I'm sorry, there was a couple of iterations on that, so I can't remember which one. It was either a 2 or 3 lot.
I think it turned out to be a 2 because at 3, we were going to make him do half street improvements, and they wound up backing off to a 2. Jonathan did it. What was it, Jonathan?
That's right. We did 2. Yeah, 2. There was a 2-lot split for Gary Kennedy, and then across the street, just up Spring Hill, we did a split for Knuckles. Same thing. 1 residential lot. We did the half street improvement waiver on as well.
Jonathan, do you remember on when this came before, how many lots were going to be on this piece of property?
Drew can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was upwards of 50. I mean,
so we're looking at
50?
2 families.
Right. Yes, 50 houses.
50. Wow.
Does that sound good?
That'd be about 100 cars, which would definitely need the improvements versus 2 families with probably 2 cars each here. So we're about 100 cars versus 4 cars.
And the big complaint from the citizens was of having so many houses in that piece of property, the density of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I had quite a few feedbacks from that.
There's a lot of big lots though in this neck of the woods. Are we setting a precedent here? I mean, or it's already been set apparently with lots of these larger lots and not and making them do the half street improvements. So we're going to keep coming up against this kind of what I'm thinking, right?
Yep. Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
if it's a large lot development where there's multiple lots, we do make them do the half street improvements. I mean, I think it gets down to what's that minimum. I mean, it's with two, we've usually overlooked it, I guess, and moved on with a lot split. But if it's three or more, it's typically required, right, Jim?
I believe so, Lance. Yes.
All right. I'll call for a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments? Last chance or questions? Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Restate the motion.
The motion is we are Hilldale Lombard 2-lot subdivision. We're voting, they're requesting approval for preliminary plat and modification from code for half street improvements. So a yes vote will be giving them the modification to where they do not have to do half street improvements.
But they are giving us the right of way for a collector and a minor artillery. I'm sorry.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's do a roll call vote.
All right. Penfield,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Abstain.
Poe,
Yes.
Hooton,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Burgess,
No.
and Johnson.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Motion passes for the modification from code for half street improvements. We'll be moving on to the next item, which will be the replat of District 84 lots in Midtown. Hope Consulting requesting approval for replat of properties in Midtown. Jonathan, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
If you want to tell us just a little bit about that.
Okay, I'll let him get the project pulled up, and then I'll start. We've got 6 lots here that we're combining into 3. So that's the original plat there. Really, we're making these lots just a little bit bigger. So 10R there was 2 lots previously. The same for 8R. Those was 2 lots, and 3R was previously 2 lots. So as you can tell, these lots are not huge right now the way we proposed them. I think lot 3R is 48 feet now wide. So, instead of having one lot 24 feet wide, we've got, 2 lots 24 feet wide. We've got 1 lot 48 feet wide. On 10R there, we're 55, I think, and then 8R 55. So we're making these specific lots just a little bit bigger, and just try to do a little bit bigger homes on these, what was 6 lots, proposing 3 lots now.
Do they still abide by Midtown regulations, or are they whatever, the overlay district,
Yeah,
Jonathan, or whoever?
yes, so at this time, this would only be changing the boundaries of these specific lots. So this wouldn't change anything with respect to the overlay district or the bill of assurance.
And I can confirm that that's correct. The other thing that I just want to mention is that there was a portion of the conversation in DRC, for anybody that's listened to that, about an easement that pertained to this plat. And I think at the time, it's not going to be something that is held up with this replat here, but getting that easement, acquiring that easement, is something that the city is still in conversations about with the owner, or the owner is the District 84. So I just wanted to be clear about that for anybody that had heard that part of that conversation, that we're still looking into that, but it is not going to be something that's going to be a part of this replat.
Drew, does this have to do with anything with the money that was supposed to be given to the city, or is it that totally a separate entity idea?
It does in a way, and we've had conversations with District 84, the guys in charge of it, and they have a plan for that.
Okay.
But Truett, that easement you're talking about doesn't go across these lots, correct?
Correct. It does not. It's in another part of this. It's a part of Midtown, which is why the conversation came up about it. But it does not have anything to do with these lots right here.
But these lots will have when we replat them and they become larger, they'll have the typical Midtown easements on them, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's in the bill of assurance. They're not shown on the plat, but doesn't it state what the easements are, front, rear, and everything?
The bill of insurance does state that,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's shown also on the plat that I submitted that he clicked on previously. It's a 4-page kind of plat that's got multiple, I think maybe the second page might have building setbacks and all that up at the top. Maybe the third page. But yes, that's all included in that.
That's what I thought I remembered. That is.
Maybe, I mean, to be clear, maybe if we could get those easements put on the replat somewhere.
Sure.
So there's no question about it. If somebody just pulled the replat, they'd know.
I'm just glad to see something happening in Midtown.
Yep.
Moving forward.
Looks good.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan, the reason for doing this is just simply to be able to build larger home or to actually be able to fit a home on there.
Right.
Before the lots were like 25 feet wide, something like that. Or?
Right. One of those, was 24 feet wide. I mean, they're really excited. Graham Smith Construction is talking about building, starting out 5 or 6 really nice homes, try to get the comps really high there. And they're extremely positive about, what they can do with what, started a long time ago as Midtown, but they're really excited about it. So,
Johnny, do you think people are going to come back and request this change on a lot of these lots, or what is your gut feeling?
So I think that they're wanting to do, like I said, 5 or 6, and these I think are some of the ones that they've selected to start on, but they've made no mention of any other ones. We did talk to the Property Owner Association of Midtown previously, and we did propose some other replats. And I think the conversation back and forth with the residents ended up with these 3 lots only. So there was conversation previously of more, but I think this is kind of where we are now. It's the final revision.
Jonathan, was there any concerns from the Property Owners Association about?
There was a lot of conversation back and forth, and I don't think that they had any problems with these 3 lots. There was some back and forth on other lots that they were not as excited about, and those fell off the replat.
Jonathan, quick question. The lots north and south of 3R are pretty small or narrow. Is this replat going to adversely affect the ability to build on those lots?
Good question. Yes, so that won't affect that. To the south on 6, there's also a big house. It'll be similar to the ones you would see on there on A Street, but as far as affecting it, no, sir. They will have access on the back with the driveway. You'll kind of see that common area back there. So they'll have an alleyway back there to access. So they should have direct access to the back of those lots for.
Colton, is there a buzz? Is there a buzz or something? I can't hardly hear.
Is it Walter? Is that your?
Kind of like a vacuum thing.
Now. It's gone now.
Well, did you see Mayor Scott's comment?
No, I'll read it now. Mayor Scott says to all of us, so the property owners had no issues with combining these lots. So I don't see anything that would hurt. I mean, it would, if nothing else, it would certainly improve things.
Agreed.
They're too small to begin with.
They do come recommended from DRC. It meets all of the codes, so it is recommended.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Let's do a roll call vote on that, Colton.
And what's the motion again?
Motion would be to requesting approval for replat of properties in Midtown. We're replatting all of these in one vote.
Okay. Irwin,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes for the replat, and
Awesome.
we'll move on to Stony Brook, Phase 6, final plat. Hope Consulting requesting final plat approval. Jonathan, you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, sir. This is the final plat of this development that started in 1998. So this is it. This is the last 23 lots. Pretty straightforward. There's no retention ponds or detention ponds in this. The only thing unusual about this, I would say, is there in the top left on your drawing, you'll see a track A. That was a big point of discussion as we went through DRC last month. There's a small piece of land back behind this that's landlocked if we don't give them access. So we've got a note on there that that's not a lot, and no fences can be constructed there. That's really the only thing unusual. We're given access to a piece of property there. Besides that, everything's done, asphalt's in. It's good to go. I don't think that there was anything outstanding. I heard a comment on the reading about, if I remember right, about the DRC, that there was I guess a punch list that had to be done. I believe Trip can confirm. I think all of that was completed.
What about who's going to take care of that tract A, or how's it going to be in the POA or improvement district?
Yeah, so the landowner, the developer, doesn't have any plans for it right now. At the end there, a few months ago, we tried to bring that in as a lot to see if there was any sort of, I guess, if Bryant was receptive to creating one lot there, but you know, it wasn't part of the original preliminary plat. It was, you know, never looked at as part of the subdivision. So the city just was not interested in that becoming a lot unless it went through the whole full subdivision review versus just kind of being thrown in at the end. There's not much there. It's really the levee, and it's not a lot of viable land there. So right now it's under the ownership of the original developer. I don't know if he would, you know, go towards the people on the north, the correctional facility, see if they're interested in it, to deed it over to them. But for now, you know, we're leaving access so maintenance can happen if needed.
Yeah, and I think there was some concern about the levee and the pond and building a house right there on it. I think that was there was some additional requests when that request was made of looking at it a little bit broader. And I think that's when it seemed the decision was to just not do anything there.
So who's going to be responsible for maintaining that tract A again?
Right now it's the developer, which is Davis Fitzhugh, and he's the one that's been maintaining it since 1998. Another thing we discussed, we requested, which some of these lots in the cul-de-sac are really going to be difficult to build on. And, you know, when we did the original design, we were not required to do those 60-foot radiuses like we're showing there. That's new fire code that was, yeah, obviously different, you know, 23 years ago. So in this last phase here, we've increased the size of these paved areas in these cul-de-sacs, which has really made some of these lots, like you look at 31 and 39, going to be really difficult to build on. We're showing the R2 zoning here with 25-foot front and rear setbacks. But I presume sometime in the future where I would be coming back asking for a variance on a couple of those lots, just so building a home on those would be possible.
Yeah, and Jonathan and I have had conversations about that before, and it seemed like there was a struggle to get this thing across the finish line. So I think we sort of agreed upon that. Is let's put the setbacks that meet the code on there, and then on a case by case, we can come back and relook at individual lots if they need relief there or not.
So stormwater is okay with his tract through it, you think?
He is good with this plat. They've all blessed it.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners for Jonathan? Okay. Let's do a roll call vote for Stony Brook Phase 6 final plat, requesting final plat approval. Go ahead, Colton.
Poe,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes. Okay, the preliminary plat is approved. We'll move on to the next item, which is Starlight Village, Phase 1, Mount Carmel Road, Hope Consulting requesting preliminary plat approval. We're back to Jonathan, if you want to give us a little overview.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think it's preliminary plat for the whole thing, not just phase 1. This is hearing that buzzing too now. This was previously a PUD that was rezoned in the last year to R1S. We've got 101 lots here. It's been a challenge to get it to this point. We had some modifications with the master street plan that was previously going across the golf course, but we're here. We've made it to the finish line, I think, and I think we've got a drawing here that the city's happy with. That we've made it through DRC, have their blessing, and at this point, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Jonathan, is there just one entrance and one exit at this time, or what's the plans there?
So we have one secondary access point to the north that the fire chief has blessed, that will have a gate with the correct locking mechanism that the Bryant Fire Department has approved. We're also leaving, there's a large tract to the south that I think will be developed fairly soon. That is coming off that Hammerhead drive that we're showing right there in the middle. I think that's close to being developed. So that would be another major point of access going from our project in the center of our project to the south.
Where is the other emergency entrance from the north?
Okay, so that is near lot 30 or 29.
Okay. I see it in between 29 and 28.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. But the fire chief has blessed it and all that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jonathan, did you talk about this being done in phases, and would you share where the phases would be?
Oh gosh. Right. So the first phase, I don't want to lie to you here, but that's 21 lots. Okay, he's showing it. Great. Thank goodness Colton's saving me. The right there, those dash lines we've got going north and south are representative of our expectations of where the phases are. And then we've worked out our sewer is going to be at the very east end of the project, northeast. So we've worked out with utilities our sequencing of water and sewer connections. We have water main, a 10-inch water main across the front, but they're also asking us to do a second connection. So we've worked out the phasing and when those sequences would happen. And utilities, Public Works is happy.
What is the width size of most of those lots out of curiosity?
I think they're around 60 to 70 feet. Yeah, 60. They're really deep, you know, it's just the way this property laid out. Previously, I think we had 190 lots on here and they were stacked in there with multiple streets. You know, this way we're doing fairly narrow, but most of these are pretty deep. You can see some of those on there, right there, 220, you know, 170. So I think the square footage requirement in this district is 7,000 square feet. So a lot of these are quite a bit bigger than what the minimum square footage requirement is.
So if this development completely builds out, how many lots, how many houses would be built on the lots?
100.
How many houses would be built total?
Yeah, 101.
Okay. My concern is you've got one way in, one way out on Mount Carmel, and people trying to turn left could be a big issue because Mount Carmel being more and more traveled. Is there any way we could have like a partial third lane for left turn, or is that possible?
I think we've widened out our access point for a comment that was made, actually that same thing. I think we've widened that front entry out. And then we've also, you know, we're doing half street improvements on our side as well. You know, I would say, just based on the conversations of the people to the south of this development, that Sunlight Avenue there, I would say that a development to the south is going to happen before too long. So I would say that would create a direct access point due south to Boone Road, which will be nice.
I thought that went across that land, it couldn't be developed. Lance, is that correct?
No, sir, that's adjacent property. So if you, yeah, so
it's a different piece.
I need the cursor, but I can't.
Yeah. So just to clarify that, he's referring to these properties right here.
Oh, okay.
That property that has the land deed restriction is this one right here.
That's
the
right.
40-acre tract.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the entrance will be wide enough so they could do a left-hand turn?
Right. I think that there was Truett, does that sound right? That comment came up already. Am I crazy?
Colton, can you zoom in and show us where the entrance is going to be on that map you have up now? And how does that compare to where the driveway is across the street?
I think we're pretty close to splitting our width right there. Okay. So I think that's a pretty good location there.
Yeah, I think that had come up during DRC. We talked about that. I think that was a major comment from Ted about the entrance over there, and making sure that'd be able to work out. A couple of other things I just wanted to point out for the record. The code does have a thing on dead end streets, how long one can be, and this one is quite excessive to that. But part of that, to negate that, is the way the code reads is you cannot create I should have pulled the language, but it's a dead end street for like perpetuity. Like it can't always be a dead end street. And since the plan has a road heading east and west here at the end of their property, they have dedicated the right of way down to that road where that future road can be. And then have also dedicated the proposed right of way running east and west for that road. So if that road's ever built out, the subdivision can then connect to it. Another part of that was the bulb out that was referred here. So in the plans, it shows on that corner, that turn before it heads south is larger, and that's for the fire access, which Chief Jordan was a part of that conversation. And as far as the fire code goes, it meets all of those and it comes recommended. I believe another portion of this, I don't want to go amiss because I don't think it was necessarily listed in the on the agenda with it, but there is the waiver on the south side, they're just proposing that right of way for that road. They're not building half a road down there, but it is part of this application, and I wanted y'all to be aware of it. So Colton, if you could scroll down on that site plan just a little and specifically point to, yeah, so there's on the map plan, there is a road through there, and they're proposing their half of that road. And then to remind everybody of what we've already talked about, the piece of property south of there is the one with the deed restriction that was being talked about. And the other part that I wanted to mention is right now, we are working with them on the pedestrian plan. You know, we updated the transportation plan. We're working through the pedestrian plan for them right now with them. Right now, it does show for a trail to go through there, not a trail, a bike lane to go through there. And that is what they show. But we're still working with them on that. So that may be something that we have a further conversation.
Where's the bike trail go again to it?
It's actually a bike lane. So it's just, it's the lane on the side of the road is what it calls for.
Okay. Alongside of the street.
Correct.
So we'll have sidewalks on both sides?
Yes.
Plus street lights.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, I know you've done a lot of work on getting this plat laid out like the city wants to have it. So I compliment you on staying with the task.
Thank you, sir. They've been good to work with.
And just for the conversation, Jonathan, where are you with the core? Because I know that's been a hurdle with this project as well.
Right. So there is extensive permitting required for this site. I expect that we'll have the permitting all in place in the next probably 30 to 60 days. So before any construction would happen, before any permits were pulled, we would hand over all those core permits. So we're at the very end. So I would say probably February we'll have that.
Any other questions by commissioners for Jonathan? Okay, let's make a roll call vote. Starlight Village requesting preliminary plat approval. Colton?
All right. Mayfield,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Hooten,
Yes.
Irwin,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Preliminary plat passes. We will move on to, I believe, our final item, which is EPG PLLC sign variance. LA Designs requesting approval for a sign variance. Truett, can you give us a little bit of details on this?
Sure thing. And actually what I'm going to do is while I'm pulling in the person that's a part of representing this group, I'm actually going to let Colton explain this one. He's turned into quite our sign guru, so I'm just going to let him run with it while I pull them in.
Yeah, so I'll give a little brief explanation here. So they are requesting a variance for a sign on their south facade. Looking at the building, or actually I'll pull it up on a map real quick for you too. So this is that new center over behind Walmart off of Main Street. They're looking at going into this building right here on the end. DRC has approved a front facade sign for them already. Along with that front facade sign was a side facade sign facing south. We informed them that they would have to have a variance for that extra facade sign since that facade does not directly abut a street. And that is why they are here today. This is what that sign would look like. And that's kind of the rendering of the south facade there.
Is there a future street going to go in, Colton, on that draw on the map? What is that green line that was on that map?
That right there is, I guess that is proposed local road. I can't remember if this one was modified with that site plan before. Was it, Truett?
Yeah, so when we worked through that with the master plan for that whole area, we looked through those roads, and that's where the master plan for that area ended up deciding with a road that goes north of there, not south of there. The road south of there, that terrain was so difficult. I think the idea was to move away from that, and then also half of that was on Walmart, and Walmart's probably not going to redevelop in a way that'll spur a road, being built there on their half for quite some time. So the master plan for this area that went through does have the roads connecting through there.
What is the main purpose of the sign? Visibility or?
I believe so. Yes, visibility.
Now, what is the sign on the front going to look like?
Give me just a second. I can pull that up too.
Because I think it was quite a bit different than this sign.
Yeah, and if as a part of the DRC report, the DRC did go ahead and approve the front facade sign because it, of course, met the code. And it's this the side sign that's here. And I believe there's a representative for the applicant that's here if they'd like to speak into any of this.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Truett. Thanks, Colton, for all your help. I really do appreciate it. This is new for me. I'm excited to be here. Yes, the sign on the front part of the building actually has the same copy as what I'm proposing for the side, EGP, PLLC, CPAs, and consultants. However, it's formed plastic dimensional lettering, whereas this sign is a flat aluminum composite material. It's 1/8 inch thick. It's got a digital print, and it will be flush mounted directly to the side of the building. So it's not an expensive one. It's not going to do a lot of damage to the building if it has to be removed or anything like that. It's just mostly to catch the attention for their new location, to direct traffic, their existing customers and potential new clients, to help them find their new location. And you guys know they've been in this community for 10 years now. So they're really excited about this new place, and I want to get them found.
Thank you, Colton.
Yeah, this is what that front facade sign that we already have looks like, just for y'all's reference.
Is there a monument sign out front?
No, sir. Not at this time, no, sir.
Will there be one proposed?
There has been one proposed to the client. It may be a budgetary thing that I think has been put on hold.
How many other renters are there? 2 others?
Lance, I think in this particular building, I think they've got one other position.
There's 2 bays that are vacant that may wind up being 1 user or 2 users. And to go back to Joe's question, several years ago, and Jim will remember this, when we did the first master plan with Curtis Ferguson, I mean, the signage was to be located on the buildings. I don't think we allow monument signs in there or pole signs. Correct, Truett?
I believe that's correct.
I think you're right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Making note of that.
Sorry you proposed it, but in the original plat or the plan negotiated, I think we weren't allowing any of that.
Okay.
And just for my curiosity, why can't there be a monument sign out front? Just the space?
Well, in that through that period, and you were there, weren't you, Truett, at that time?
For the new one, the new master plan?
Well, it was prior to that. Curtis was before his stroke. He worked out, and it had to do with Billy Smith putting that billboard across the highway, and we didn't want a bunch of poles.
Yeah.
We changed it. Everything on the north side of 5 and the south side of 5, there can't be those marquee signs out in the front.
Okay.
And just to clarify, so as far as the monument sign, that's usually one that's only 6 foot tall. So so that's not going to be allowed in this area, correct?
Well, I'm talking mainly the pole monument type signs.
Okay. The one I'm referring to is more was a ground mount that, like I said, is no taller than 5 to 6 foot tall from the
Yeah,
ground.
I think
That's what I was asking about.
Yeah, I think in most of the cases, and we can pull up the sign code. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I think there are some restrictions as to when you've got a strip like this and the signage that can be out front that goes along with that. It does a lot for everybody to have their own facade sign. But of course, the reason for this waiver here, this variance, is because, this isn't necessarily on the front of the building, it's on the side of the building.
So we're
does
going
it
to
meet our
have
sign code?
no, that's what they're asking for variance.
I know what's not meeting material.
There's no road facing the sign.
Our code doesn't allow for one on the side unless there's a road there, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
I just questioned Walter, make sure he was on top of the game.
Trying to earn my stripes here. Point of note here, there's going to be a whole community right behind Walmart of this exact same building with the exact same scenario. So I do worry about the precedent this variance would set for that whole area between Walmart and Highway 5.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And are there going to be other tenants in there that are going to want to put their sign there as well? Like beside this one would be the other question.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other two vacant
Beside the
bays, are they
building.
going to want a variance to put their sign up as well?
Yeah, everybody's going to ask for the same.
Any other questions for the applicant or Truett?
I think Copper Mule has a sign on the front is all they have on their building, right up the street.
That is correct. Yeah, just one sign on the front.
I mean, you can see the side of their building next to the modification center for vehicles, but
I mean, I get it. It's visible from down Main Street. I mean, they've got a significant investment in this property. They're in that in suite. I mean, we allowed the cancer place to do it on Reynolds Road several months ago on the corner of their building. But
will you say something, Lance?
sir,
You got cut off. Did you have something else to say?
I would just say that these businesses are, it's a huge, significant investment in brick and mortar. They do own that building. They're in that in suite. It's, I know why they want to put one on the corner because it's highly visible from the south end of Main Street coming from Walmart.
So they do own the building itself then?
Yes, they own that building. Yes.
So when somebody said about the two bays from there, it's up to these people if they want anything on that wall.
Correct.
Well, they'll lease out those suites, and that would be another variance, which they're not going to be on that end of the building. So I would be opposed to probably letting it'd be like a billboard at that point.
Correct. That's what my point would be.
They're an owner occupant in that end of the suite.
Lisa, why does this sign appear different than the one on the front? Is there a cost factor in that or what?
Most definitely. The one on the front, like I said, is formed dimensional. It's formed plastic letter, and they're dimensional letterings, individual lettering that's mounted on there. So they're going to be more for a place that's going to be permanent. The side here, part of the thing was the cost. They didn't want to spend the cost to do the formed plastic on the side. So this was an option that is inexpensive comparatively to the other. and it's easy to change out. Like I said, it's not going to do a lot of damage to the building. You'll have some sun fading the paint if this is removed in 4 or 5 years, in small holes. But that's the main purpose. And the layout that I sent here was before they changed the color of the background. Right now, the background is shown to be white. It's actually going to be more of the color of the building on that side of the building, so that it's not standing out so much in your face. So
Oh,
it
really?
will give more the appearance of dimensional, get more of the appearance of just lettering up there.
Okay, because that's what my concern was. Was the background stood out so much more than anything else. So that's not going to be white.
No, sir. No,
Did you-
sir. No, sir.
True, did you receive a picture showing that new updated
No, I
background?
did not submit that, I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
So we did have a conversation about it being a different, a color that more matches the facade itself.
Yes.
Truett, I had a question for you. If we approve this and say they move out in a year or two and another business comes in there, can that other business just put up a sign, or are we approving this particular lettering and sign?
So you're not, you don't approve the particular lettering or the color or the sign or anything like that. You're more of just doing whether the sign can be there or not.
So another tenant could move in and they could replace that sign with a burger place or something.
The way the sign code reads is that if you come in and do a face replacement, so if all you're doing is just replacing the face of a sign, that can actually be done without a permit. You can just go in there and do that.
So it's almost like a billboard in a way. So in a sense, it's like a billboard to a certain extent.
Once once it's there, they have that it'll be there. So you can swap it out whenever you need to. We like to encourage that to a certain extent when signs get kind of old and run down, so they can just go out there and do that.
But you could swap it for another business without having to come back through.
Well, it would still need to meet the requirements on-site business. It would have to, it'd have to be the business that's there. Because anything outside of that would be off premise. And that would be like a billboard, which is not allowed.
Okay.
Well, and that cures Jim's concern about the other end of the building, putting a sign on there. That would be considered a billboard, correct?
It would be an off-premise sign for most certainly.
So
So that
wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, because from what I remember is these are two different lots. Like these are two different pieces of property. So that would be an off-premise sign. So that couldn't happen. Or I mean, it could happen. They'd have to come back to you and ask for a waiver from the sign code.
So clarification is the background would not be white. It would be the color of that siding that's there now.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll take a roll call vote for the sign variance, requesting approval for sign variance.
Irwin,
Yes.
Penfield,
Yes.
Mayfield,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Hooten,
No.
Burgess is absent. Johnson.
Yes.
Right. Motion carries.
Okay. Sign variance is approved. Okay, we will move on. We'll move on to the director's report. Truett, it's all yours.
Yeah, and I'll be brief. I did want to mention something that's happening with the planning department. The mayor has asked for us to merge with the code and permits department. So all of that's going to start becoming one department. Our goal is for that merger to happen at the end of this quarter officially. And part of that is with them moving their physical address down here to City Hall. So we'll all be under City Hall and working together. And I think we're all pretty excited about the future working together and hopefully streamlining some things, here at the City of Bryant. So that'll be a goal of ours for this year, and it'll be something that we all work towards. Something mentioned, because I was pulling together some numbers for the Bryant or the mayor's state of the city, and not to preempt what he's going to talk about, but to just give everybody some ideas of what 2020 was like. DRC did 39 sign permit approvals, 27 commercial approvals on their own. This does not include the ones that Planning Commission approved, that y'all approved. That was another 13. 9 temporary business permits, 14 residential type approvals from Planning Commission, 4 sign variances, 10 conditional use permits, 3 rezonings, 1 annexation, and 4 BZA approvals. Then I can also say, because I got this number on the top of my head, I believe this year we had 113 residential permits from what I counted. I'd say this year, 2020. And to give you a perspective on that, 2019, we had 130. So that is.
We lost you.
Truett said, well, I guess that's it. His, evidently his microphone's not working. So
Let's put the batteries in it.
So we have, so that's it for tonight. Any motions?
I move that we dismiss.
Second.
Okay, we are hereby dismissed.
Thanks, Truett.
Thank you,
guys.
Truett.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
job.
Good work. Bye.
All right.